Hey everybody, welcome to another week of BICP's Talks with Travis. This week we are going to be doing a refresher on hosting a course. For folks just seeing this video for the first time or finding it from our Request a Course webpage, my name is Travis Brown. I'm an instructor trainer for the BICP, as well as coordinated our Talks with Travis, which is where we get mountain bike instructors together via Zoom and talk about teaching mountain biking a whole bunch. So happy to answer any more questions about that. You can reach me at travis@icp.bike. But our focus for today is going to be hosting a course. Quick refresh. What we're going to talk through is some of the benefits of hosting a course, the site requirements of what we need from our venue for the various levels, and then go through some step-by-step processes to how to make all this happen. So to jump on in, benefits of hosting a course, we have instructor trainers across the US, Canada, and Europe, and a couple in South Africa and as well. But it's tough to know exactly where we need these courses to be. So the best way, especially if you're in an area that hasn't seen a BICP course recently, uh, is to request one specifically. So this can limit your amount of travel that you have to put into it and make it a lot easier to get your instructors and yourself into a BICP course. Having said that, we do need to have a minimum number of participants in order to host one of these courses, one in your area. So an early step would be to talk with some of the other mountain bike coaches that you work with or that are in your region and see who else is interested in this course, because we do need a minimum of 4 participants to post the course in a new area. And then we will get, some other registrations to fill up those last couple of spots so we can run full courses. So get some folks interested and try to have a couple people who you think will be, into that whatever course you're hoping to request. Another big benefit is to, if you host one of these courses, you get to be the person who's making taking intentional steps to improving not just the quality of your instruction, but the quality of instruction that happens in your community. That is huge. It makes a big, big difference when we're able to get instructors trained and certified. So, starting to talk about our site requirements. The requirements that we have for our venues vary depending on whichever course you're hoping to host, whether that's level 1, 2, or 3, or our adaptive programs. But the biggest thing that they all have in common is we need permits to operate at any venue. And if your organization already has a permit associated with running programs at that venue, we can provide certificate of insurance to piggyback onto that permit, or the BICP is also able to pursue permits for these courses specifically. We would if the host does put up money to acquire a permit, then we would reimburse reasonable costs associated with running that program, as well as provide any verification for our with our nonprofit status. As far as features go and other amenities that the site does require, we'll be looking for, bathrooms, easy access to water, shade is a super big one, some sort of pavilion that we can get under if there is inclement weather. If we can ride under it, even better. That makes for a great rainy day situation. These courses do typically run rain or shine, unless there is severe weather. So having a spot where we can continue to move through the course and be covered and a little bit warmer is very, very desirable. And with water and that sort of thing, make running bathrooms aren't necessary, or running water in restrooms isn't necessarily a requirement. If we have some porta potties, that's great, but we will want to have some drinkable water for sure, because these are long days and they can get hot and tiring, and we got to make sure we're staying hydrated. So whether there's fill stations at the venue or we bring a couple extra jugs of water, that is all stuff that we can make happen. As we start looking at some specific features, all of the courses are going to require a large flat area about the size of a basketball court. It can be a little bit smaller, but what we need is our basic runway as well as a practice loop. So enough space that our riders can have some space between them when they're coming into the cones, as well as space to perform whatever skill they need to. Our basic runway is typically about 24 feet long. So that would help to, we need that length plus a little bit on either end to make our loop for our practice pattern. Grass is ideal for that. Short grass is the best because then we can have some good or a lack of rolling resistance. But grass is just a great way for us to manage risk in these courses. We can work with a variety of surfaces. Pavement also works well for the skills that we're teaching, especially at level 1. And gravel is something we can work with, but it's never going to be ideal for what we're hoping to do by creating a closed environment and managing risk when our participants are trying out new skills. As far as constructed features go, what we will need for our level 1 programs, I'm going to share my screen and show you a couple of photos. So what we're going to need for level 1 programs is starting out some sort of feature. So for our neutral and ready position, our wheel lifts, that sort of thing, we'll need something to do those skills over. And what we have here, it's a 6-inch PVC pipe that's cut in half with some grip tape on top. These make excellent features that you can move around, kind of customize a little bit. And we do have a guide to making these in the Talks with Travis archive under the DIY skill features, as well as a couple of the other ones that we have coming up. But so some sort of feature like this that we can move around and ride on and still maintain good traction will be important. We'll also want to make sure that we have some sort of skinny feature. So the skinnies are part of our riding straight line skill. So we've got a 2x6 right here, and the 2x4 is just kind of a fun next progression that I put together. But a 2x6 about 8 feet long, it will be a nice thing to have. This can also be built into a skills area, provided it's not too high off the ground for those progressions. But we do want something that we can practice riding straight lines on, similar to this. The next type of feature that we're going to need is some sort of roll down. And in the level 1 course, it goes up to a foot high. So this is for teaching our roll down skills. So you can see here, we've got our green box with about a foot high drop on one side of it. This will allow participants to ride up and roll down. We will need something like this, as well as at least like a 6-inch feature to precede this one. And so curbs work well for that, but we also need to make sure that the parking lot is going to be, if we're using a curb, that curb is in a safe place for us to be teaching as well. But some sort of constructed feature like this, again, if it's built into a skills park at your venue, that's awesome. Otherwise, these are relatively easy to make, tons of different versions of them, and can super elevate your the coaching that you offer. So for level 1, those are kind of the big things that we'll need as far as constructed features go. When we are looking at some of the other skills that we end up teaching, like steep descending, that sort of stuff, we would need a continuous slope of about 20 to 40 feet. And that's something that we'll be able to practice breaking on descents on, and we can add features to make it a little bit more complicated. And then working up to, roughly like blue level steepness of trails. And those are the big things for our level 1 site requirements. Now let's look at a couple pictures from our level 2 course, because some things have changed. Again, the bulk of the skills will be taught in that, basic runway, that big flat field, like all of our manuals, bunny hops, all that stuff. Uh, but we do have a couple more specific requirements for what we need for jumping and berm cornering and rollers. So we're going to look at a couple of examples of that real quick, just so you can see all of those. And we'll start out, hey, with our basic drop. So in level 2, we do move into both wheels leaving the ground on a drop and landing at the same time. And we would start at that foot high roll down. And oftentimes the features for the level 1 roll down will work well for this basic drop technique, but we would also need it to go up to about 18 inches. And there can be a couple ways to do this. There's some features that stack on top. There's some drop zones that have like multiple heights of drops, but we're looking for 12 inches and 18 inches of drop. And I have, sometimes it can work out if our teaching zone allows it to put this at the end of a curb. And so then we can add the height of a curb to our 12-inch feature, and then that will get us up to that roughly 18 inches. So a couple different ways around it, but it will be an important thing for us to have. Here's another example. This is at a skills park here in Minnesota, just outside of Minneapolis in Cottage Grove. This, this is about 18, and there's a little bit of grass grown in, but about an 18-inch drop that's built into the skills park. So super appropriate because we still have a loop to ride around, and we don't have to like go back and forth on the same trail as if we were doing a on-trail session. The next big thing that is a part of level 2 that we'll want to touch on, because there's a lot of different jumps out there and a lot of different styles of building jumps. So what we're looking for in a level 2 jump is going to be no more than 4 feet tall. Tabletop jump, no more than 4 feet tall. This is 2 feet tall. And then the table itself should be about a bike length long. This is about 6 feet. So 5 to 6 feet is kind of what we're shooting for with the length. So no more than 4 feet tall, no more than 1 bike length long. And as we're looking at the lip or the transition leading up to the jump, we don't want it to be super steep. So if you're looking at hosting a level 2 course, go ride these jumps that you know of that you think we could teach at, and see how steep they feel, and maybe compare them to some jumps that you find out on mountain bike trails. Because sometimes jumps that are in skills parks are a little bit steeper, which can be challenging on our longer bikes. But what we've got here is the best way that we could all be working from the same jump. So this is a MTB Hopper Pro that's been set up and combined with a bunch of Landwave ramps. So we've got Landwave, they just make plastic, kind of these puzzly put together piece ramps. And we've got 4 boxes stacked here to make the deck of our table. And then we've got 4 triangles to make our landing, combined with a couple more boxes. And this is super consistent. It's a very, very good shape for a jump for a beginner to learn on, because it's not crazy steep, and it's also not crazy long, and it's nice and wide as we are, working on landing and working on building up those skills. So this is the kind of what we're shooting for. There are a lot of different bike parks out there, a lot of different dirt jump builders, and so making sure that it doesn't feel too steep. We may request pictures or videos of people riding off of the jumps or some of the other features, just to make sure we know we've got what we want for the feature and for the course. And as we are looking at some of the other requirements for level 2 courses, we are going to need some steep terrain as well that we can add a little bit of technical riding to. If this is one we have to get on the trail for the last little bit, as long as that section of trail is accessible, and we're looking for like blue to like easy black difficulty of descents. So this could combine some roll down skills, it could combine loose terrain, so we can talk about cornering, all that sort of stuff. Another skill that we have as a part of our level 2 course is pumping. Pumping is something that we can do to build speed, and berm cornering also goes along with that. So ideally what we would have is a pump track that we can take advantage of as a part of our course. So what that would look like here, what that would look like is something like this. So here we've got our berm corner marked. Our riders could come in roller, berm corner around here. And this one's paved. They don't have to be paved by any means, but this is just a good example of what we could have. So we've got our berms, super accessible, a couple different options. You can hit them from both directions really easily, super repeatable. And then we also have a lot of rollers around this feature, or around this pump track, but a set of 3 continuous rollers will be what we want for the course. So for here, we will be using 1, 2, 3 rollers, nice straight line, good height, not super steep or too far apart or anything. And again, very, very repeatable, which is really important. Awesome. So, talked about the rollers, talked about berm corners. The last thing that we'll touch on for the level 2 courses is going to be the North Shore dismount skill. So, we need an elevated feature to do that off of. And typically, the roll, whatever we use for our drop or for our roll down at that first progression, that foot high, is super appropriate for our North Shore dismount as well. We also would want to be able to do that off of a curb or a smaller feature about 6 inches before going up to that foot, but we'll use that drop in other contexts as well. Excellent. So, and as we move into level 3, we would need larger drops. The level 3 courses, we're only able to host at a couple of specific locations, so feel free to put in a request for it. And we'll see what we can do about getting one nearby you with the venue that we've taught at or we've used in the past. If you do have questions about any of the site requirements that we've talked about, feel free to send me an email, travis@icp.bike. Feel free to give me a holler. Super happy to answer any questions. So, when it comes to steps to go through to make all of this happen, from our website, if you scroll down just a little bit, you from our homepage, you will see a button on the center left that says request a course. This is going to pull up a sheet that has a reminder of all of the, or a web page that has a reminder of all of the site requirements for the different levels of certification. And it's also going to have a link to a Google survey. This is where we're going to gather up some information. So typically, these courses take, we try to get these courses posted 2 to 3 months in advance. But if you're able to, if you know of a few dates that you want to have a course, say in the spring as you're moving into the winter season, but you know those dates, feel free to put that course request in. The sooner that we can make it happen and the sooner we can get folks registered, the better. And after you verify that you've got the requirements, provided us an address for the venue you're hoping to have it listed at, as well as some contact info, uh, we will reach back out to you via email. We'll talk about some final dates, get you connected with an instructor trainer, and then get everything finalized with your instructor trainer that'll be teaching the course. They may have more questions. So as a host, maybe a couple of phone calls here or there, and some email communication to verify permitting and venue requirements and all that will be what's required. The last part of being the host is going to be to meet up with the instructor trainer before the course. And this is usually the day before, a couple days before, because often our instructor trainers are traveling to a particular location to teach. So being able to have like a 20-minute meeting where you walk around the venue, look through the features, and complete the emergency action form that will make sure that in the event of an incident, we are prepared. But that is all that's asked of the host outside of some, additional like, okay, where are the restaurants nearby the venue? Where can people, what hotels are there? Where, if people need to rent bikes, how can they do that there? A couple little extra just like logistics things go into being a host, but that's the bulk of it. And those are the big things that I wanted to touch on. So again, we talked a little bit about benefits of hosting a course, some of the site requirements. Feel free to review those pictures of those jumps and drops. If you have questions about constructing features, definitely check out the DIY skill talk in our Talks with Travis archive. And talked about that big flat space and what would be ideal for that. And then just the basic steps to go through as far as making one of these courses happen in your area. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out, travis@icp.bike, and we will try to get a course in your area. Excellent. Well, I hope you have a great rest of the day, and I hope that we get to get some instructor trainers working with you before too long. Have a good rest of the day. Thank you.